So we're going to try and create the two yellow tubes. One's 4 inches and one's 2 inches. And then we'll try and create the purple tube in between them. The transmission is not immediate. Where did I say what the somewhere in the directions I said a third. I'm sure I said it.
Number 4 right there says 1/3 of the tube.
Oh, there it does say that. Yeah, 1/3 of the tube must maintain the same radius from their respective ends. So from here to here is 4 inches, and from here to here is 2 inches, and then it's going to create its own transition. I didn't create any specific lengths. So I'm just going to go to wireframe and create a line. Do it in, actually, I'll just go point to point. Create a point on this plane. Missed plane. Pick the XY plane. I'll put a point right about here. And then I'll create another point on that plane over here somewhere. Select OK. Create another, create circular tube, center and radius. This line is my center. What would my radius be? 2-inch radius. Jeez, this is going to be huge.
Yeah, 4 diameter.
Can I take point number 2? Move it way over here somewhere just so it looks, whoa. That looks good. Select OK. Gives me a little more perspective. You know what? I'm going to move this away from the axis. Huh. Oh, it's not letting me do a whole lot here. Huh. Okay. All right, so that's a tube with a two-inch radius. So I should name this geometrical set because that's what they would do in production. 4-inch tube.
Name me the title.
Oh, David.
All right.
Thank you. You're a little late on that. But I appreciate you coming. Kidding me? Okay, so I got 4-inch tube on that end. Then create another geometrical set. Oops.
Huh.
And then 2-inch tube. Whoa. Okay. And I'll start with a line. Just arbitrarily creating a line somewhere. Ye gods. Create a point over here. Insert another point on that XY plane. I got that support thing in my way, so I'm just going to pick XY over here. I should have created a plane, to be honest, to link it to, but I didn't. All right. And then we do another sweep. Center and a radius. Radius will be 1 inch in this case. Geez, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 inch radius. Okay. All right. So I got tube number 4, or 4-inch tube and a 2-inch tube, right? Guess what I'm going to create next?
Connect curve.
Yeah, okay.
Before I create the connect curve, I'm going to create a new set, because this should be its own thing here. Properties, transition tube. So if I'm in a situation where I'm like, I've been given the task to make these connect, these are two different components really. Normally it'd be an assembly, and I got to figure out how to create a detail to go from one detail to the next. All right, so I'm going to go to connect curve because that's what I heard. Before I go to connect curve, does anybody have anything to say or any comments about the way I've created my geometrical sets? Or my tube, my 4-inch tube or my 2-inch tube? Can anybody think of anything I should have done when I was doing this that I didn't do? So let's do a connect curve and find out what I could have done better. I'm going to select the smaller tube. No, I'm going to select this one, bigger tube going into the smaller tube. So I'm going to grab this endpoint. And I'm going to grab this endpoint. Why is it doing that? What could I have done differently?
It's the flow of how you created the lines.
Okay, very
It
good.
goes in opposite directions.
Yeah, they're going in opposite directions. So when I go to create this, it seems easy enough to fix, right? I just hit reverse direction, reverse direction, reverse direction until I get this all to look like it's flowing smooth, right? Now this is going from here to here, correct? Let's do that again. Connect curve. I know you all know how to connect curves, but I think you do it blindly without thinking. So I want you to think about this. This is going to the left. And this point here is going to the right. If my intention was to go from this end to this end, or if my flow direction of this material is going this direction, I want to make sure the line is created from that end to this end. This connect curve goes from here to here, and this goes from here to here. Okay. So it would have been better if I created that line from the top down. Now, it shouldn't be a big deal. I'm going to hit invert. That should fix it. I'm just like, okay. So when I go into production, or you take the 196 class and I talk about electrical runs or tubing and stuff like that, hydraulic runs, I join this line, this curve, and this line together, and it's called a logical line. Even though it's a curve, they call it the logical line. Whatever's the center of your tube defines itself as a logical line. In the tubing commands, you have special smarts you can have to know when you have hydraulic runs or tubing, if the tube is fitting into a male or female part, whether or not they truly are compatible and stuff. So when you create your logical lines, if you have this line going this way and this one's going this way and this one's going this way, they're not all going in the same direction, you could potentially create a headache for yourself. I only know that because of many times that's bitten me on the ass when it should have worked. You can't see nothing wrong. You're positive you're doing all the steps right. And all I did was recreate my geometry so all the flow is going one way, and then all of a sudden it does work. So in theory, that shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be anything that I have to worry about. In reality, I have run across it a number of times where that was the issue, and it was painstaking to find out that that was the issue, because it really shouldn't be an issue as far as I'm concerned. But I'm just trying to make a point of creating things in a logical order. If that's going to be the flow from left to right or counterclockwise, then I would try and create everything to flow that same direction. Okay? So let's go to surface, curve, center, and select this one and hit preview. And as we learned, if you don't create a law, then you're creating a constant, and it's either going to be constantly 1 or constantly 2. And one end is always going to have some kind of screw up. But what we've learned is you can create a law. So I'm not using a constant. I can try linear and change the end value to 1 and hit close and preview that. And now it transitions to 1 and 2 inches. So I got a nice smooth transition. When I go back to law, this is a straight line, which means the connection is going from a point to point. When I go to analyze this to check for an angle, is it going to tell me that it's tangent or discontinuity and tangency? Anyone?
Gonna be discontinuity. Tangency.
Thank you very much. And how can I analyze that to verify that I don't have the tangency? Or in all reality in production, I'd want to verify it to make sure it does have tangency. How would I do that? Anyone?
Connect checker.
And where would connect checker be found?
Review.
Under review, you have connect checker. And then it's asking for a source. So I pick this source. Is that right?
You can hit the little icon next to the source and select all 3 of them.
Okay, so I could use my shift button and grab all 3 at once, or I can add them in like this. And right now it says a min 0. The min 0 is telling me it's tangent, is it not? Minimum
No.
0 in IN. Does that mean it's tangent?
I'm telling you, there's no gaps.
So it means what? It is not tangent, but it is
Adjacent.
adjacent. Adjacent means that this element and this element share the same boundary curve. Agreed? And same with this end, which is good. I want them adjacent. I don't want gap and I don't want overlap. I want the boundaries to mesh up perfect. That's what adjacent's telling me. And I know that because which one is telling me it's adjacent on the display filter?
G0.
G0. So if I pick G1, come up here and grab G1, it gives me an angle of 1.5 degrees and an angle of 1.4 degrees. That means that the transition from one surface to the next is tangent or not tangent?
Not tangent.
Thank you, Chandler. This is not tangent. What would the numbers have to be tangent?
0,
Thank you. Or,
180.
so if I double click on this, you've learned that you can switch a law from a linear type to an S type. S type is going to be tangent surface. Select OK. And then my minimums come back. And then can I come back here and double click my checker and pick G1? No. Why is it not doing it?
Yeah, it is. It's showing you 0
Oh,
degrees.
it does. Okay, thank you. So now I got, of course, there's no discontinuity, so I don't get that. You got minimum degree of 0. All right, so now I know that those are tangent. The problem is, in this quiz, we're trying to make it come off 1/3 of it to be the same, and then 1/3 of it to be the same. In this particular case, it quickly transitions already. So, what I would do is create a wireframe, create a line, point direction, create a point on this plane over here in the X direction, measure item, grab your connect curve, I hope. Oh, I'm going to use that line there. Measure item, grab line number 3, reverse the, what?
I think you want the connect curve, right? Measuring from the connect curve.
I meant to grab the connect curve. What is that line?
I think it's the line you're creating right now.
This line you're building.
How dumb am I? How did that even work?
Yeah,
No
I
wonder.
know. It doesn't make any sense logically.
Line. Thanks for paying attention here. I must have fell asleep during my own demo here. It's like this plane. I just put a point over here somewhere, and then in the X direction and invert it, and measure item. Select the connect curve. Select OK. So it's 33 inches long. It's a doozer, isn't it? All right. Now, anybody have any idea what I'm going to do next?
You need to create a definition line above it.
Yes. So what I'm going to do next is actually create 2 points equally spaced along that line. Do you know why I use 2 points?
Gives you
Divided
3
by thirds.
1/3.
Yeah, would you agree that this is a third, this is a 2/3, and this is a full third here? These are 1/3, right? So I'm going to go to point, coordinate, from this endpoint up, oh my God, radius is curves, right? So I got to go
2 inches, I think.
2 inches up, and then another point off of here, the exact same value, and another point off of this one, I thought I double clicked that. Point off of this one, 1 inch. And another point off of this end, 1 inch. Oh yeah, this is fine because this is all my transition surface. And then I'm going to create a line from this point to this point. Does anybody? Whoa, what the hell? I wasn't paying attention. That offset should be 0. This line from this point to this point. Just to be clear, I created these 1 inch apart. I'm going to customize that to give me the distance of 1 inch. Why did I make that 1 inch?
Because it's 1 inch radius on the tube.
Right. And this one should be, if I measure it, it's going to be.
Goes.
So those of you that got it done, I'm doing it correct, yes?
Yes.
Now the big mistake people make is, well, next step would be what?
Next curve the 2 lines together.
So you notice when I do connect curve and I keep the flow the same, the arrows are already in the correct orientation. It's already going to be the smoothest transition it can be. I'll select OK. The big mistake I see people do right now is they go right to law and they try and create a law from here to here. Where's the law?
Transform, I think.
Pretty fine.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. If you go to law and select this curve, sorry. Yeah, why is it not letting me grab that?
You have to join it if you want to grab the whole thing.
You're correct, but I should be able to grab that. Why would it not let me get that connect curve?
Isn't that the, you want the reference
The
first?
reference line to be the bottom one.
Oh, yeah, you're right. The definition's the top. This is where I'm referencing. That's why when it says reference, that has to be a linear or ruled direction. So the definition, I grab this one and I select OK. And I double click this. Will it work? If I go to advanced and pick this law, will it work? Of course it will work. Okay, you know, I have to inverse this because, you know, that's why. See, this is the reason why I tell you that flow direction, when you do formulas and stuff like this, when you get into 196 and I teach you formulas, if it's not already going the way it likes to, then it tends to make the formulas a headache. So I can inverse this law. Okay, so it's all working, right? But did I do what the requirements are? It's not going to be a third over here and then transition and a third this way and then transition, right? All right, so some of you know what to do. What is my next step?
Join the top 3 lines into one.
Thanks, Chandler. If I go to join, your definition curve on the top should be the same length horizontally as the reference curve. In other words, this end should project straight up and hit the end here, and this end should project and hit this end here. That wasn't the case when I didn't join it, right? Now I have this curve a third over, transitioning down, and then a third over. Select OK. If I go back to my law and select the definition curve, I should be able to select the join and replace the join as my definition. Select OK. And now, can you see quite a bit of transition, right? In here, when it converted over. It's kind of funny. There's not much going on. There's an awful lot of transition only right here. It looks like it's not a third, but that's basically how that's done. And so the reason why I create my definition curve is the same length as my connect curve or my spine for this center is, for me, it's easier to calculate a third over and a third over and just the ratio from one to the next. It really doesn't have to be that way. You could have made it 30 inches long and went 10 inches and 10 inches and I'd get the same result, okay? But I like to have my reference definition, my reference curve, and my center spline for this tube to be all the same. So this is why we need to know advanced laws. In the event I want to make it do things in between other than just the start and ends of that. All right, so I thought this is a pretty easy way to get the simple concept of how to do that. All right, that concludes that demo. You guys go try it now.